straight to the point, cut ties with my husband, and never involve us again.
my son's wife said, abruptly announcing her estrangement the day after the wedding.
You brag about $90,000 like pocket change. Want to support us? I'm laughing. It's ridiculous to prepare that much money by taking on debt. Just get out of this house right now. I'm embarrassed to think that my husband's dad lives in such a rundown house. Go somewhere we don't know about, so we never have to see your face again.
I had prepared $90,000 as marriage funds for my son, but according to his wife, it was just pocket change. Moreover, she demanded that I leave this house filled with memories. Because she is my son's wife, I remained silent, but I've reached my limit. Suddenly, I heard heavy footsteps.
Hey, what are you doing?
An angry voice followed, and I turned to see it was my son. When he appeared, his wife suddenly panicked and started acting meekly.
Nothing's wrong. I just came to thank my father-in-law for the wedding.
My son stared at her with a fierce look.
I see right through you. The farce is over.
Upon hearing the truth, she collapsed on the spot. My name is Thomas Lucky, and I'm 66 years old. I lost my parents early and was passed around among relatives during my childhood. Every relative had children and disliked the sudden burden of an additional child. The last relatives I stayed with were my dad's brother and his wife, who had 2 kids, and they were barely able to afford sending their own children to high school. There was no way they could have afforded my tuition on top of that. I left their house right after high school, got a job at a small construction company, and became a carpenter. After a long apprenticeship, I started my own construction business. I married at 32, but lost my wife 2 years later. She bled profusely during childbirth and passed away. Born at that time was our only son, John. The grief of losing my wife and the despair that came with it were immense. But John was my only hope. Since then, I've raised him on my own, working tirelessly. When John was an infant, I was just starting my business, and I worked relentlessly. I begged my uncle and aunt to take care of John during the day, and I took care of him alone at night. Working late and coming home to take care of my baby by myself at night was truly challenging. But every time I fed him milk, changed his diapers, and soothed his crying, I thought of my wife. She never got to hold or see her child. I'm sure my wife would have wanted to hold John in her arms and soothe him with these hands. I often scolded myself to stay strong, thinking of my wife. Despite my situation, John grew up kind and upright. John always tried his best and excelled academically, and he helped around the house without being asked. I vividly remember when he was still in kindergarten, he would sit next to me and try to fold laundry with his little hands, imitating what I was doing. By the time he was in upper elementary school, he was cooking meals when I came home late. He learned all this by watching me, not because I taught him. While I felt grateful, I also felt guilty. I kept telling him he didn't need to do the housework, but he always laughed and said,
Dad, I'm doing it because I want to help you.
feeling my own inadequacy, yet touched by my son's kindness. I didn't pursue further education due to family circumstances, but I wanted John to go to university. Going to university would broaden his possibilities and choices. I hoped he would find what he truly wanted to do. John was accepted into a well-known university far away and left home as soon as his university started. Our goodbye was stoic. Well, a tearful farewell would be embarrassing for men. John must have felt the same. He made many friends in college and seemed to enjoy his university life. We chat on the phone sometimes, and John would casually come home during university breaks. To say I wasn't lonely would be a lie. At first, living alone again took its toll. but I gradually got used to it. I threw myself into work with a new purpose, supporting John's tuition and living expenses. John graduated from university with excellent grades and got a job at a major company far away. He seems too busy to visit home often. But no news is good news, I thought. Then one day, after a long silence, John suddenly called.
Hello, it's John. I need to talk.
His voice had matured. He was 32 now. I was happy to hear from him after so long. Hey, what's up?
Well, I'm thinking about getting married. There's someone I want you to meet.
Really? Fathers can be really clueless about these things. Come to think of it, John was the same age I was when I got married. It wasn't odd he'd want to settle down. I felt a mix of happiness and embarrassment. John seemed a bit sheepish too.
I'll be coming home next month. Keep your schedule open.
Okay, got it. After hanging up, I couldn't help but run over to the wall shelf. There was my late wife's portrait. I found myself talking to the photo. Honey, John's getting married. He's grown up to that age. It seemed like her eyes in the photo were moist. Or maybe it was just mine. Next month, I was supposed to meet John and his fiancée for dinner. But I got held up by a work crisis and was late. I rushed over in my work clothes. The restaurant was quite fancy. I felt out of place in my attire, but went in anyway. The staff led me to a private room where John and his fiancée were sitting. I hastily took off my hat and apologized for my tardiness. Sorry I'm late. Work ran over. John was all smiles.
You seem as busy as ever. Let me introduce you.
Prompted, his fiancée greeted me.
Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah Wilson.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Thomas, John's dad. Sorry I'm late,
Don't worry about it.
Sarah said with a smile. She was quite beautiful. I wondered where John had met such a beauty. During a pleasant dinner, I learned how they met. Sarah was younger than John, 29 years old. They had met at a mixer a year ago, and they had been dating with marriage in mind since the start. The two of them were affectionately close throughout, making me feel a bit embarrassed. As dinner was winding down, John stood up from his seat. I was unexpectedly left alone with Sarah and felt a bit bewildered. She was staring intently at me. Then suddenly, she spoke up.
Is that your work attire you're wearing today?
Caught off guard, I stumbled over my words. Oh yes, I run a construction business. I felt a sharpness in Sarah's gaze.
A construction business. By the way, where did you go to college?
Caught in a tight spot, I answered honestly. No, I didn't go to college. I only finished high school. Sarah frowned slightly.
High school graduate. That's the worst.
I thought I heard her mutter something like that. Then John came back. When he returned, Sarah talked normally with us, but something felt off. The eye contact wasn't there, and her look seemed cold. Did I get that wrong? Afterward, the gathering ended on a pleasant note, and I said goodbye to the young couple in front of the restaurant. Watching them walk away together, thinking about them building a family through marriage, brought a smile to my face. Later, both families met, and the wedding date was set. I wanted to do something to celebrate John's new journey in my own way, so I called John as the wedding approached. Hey John, can you come home this weekend? I've got something for you.
Oh, sure. Can Sarah come too?
Of course. That weekend, they came to our house. I ushered them into the living room and placed something wrapped in a bandana on the table. John and Sarah, this is from me. Please accept it." They looked at each other. John unwrapped the package and exclaimed in surprise.
Wow, Dad. What's this?
Inside was a bundle of cash. It is totaling $90,000. Sarah was also taken aback. I laughed, seeing their expected reactions. "Please use it for the wedding expenses." John shook his head.
I can't accept such a large sum.
I looked at them both and said, "Just take it. After the wedding, you'll need money for many things. Aren't you planning a honeymoon? There will be moving expenses for a new home, and you'll have to buy furniture, dishes, and more. Money will fly out the window. Just take it." Mom would have been happy too. John held the bundle for a moment, then hugged it.
Thank you.
I glanced at Sarah sitting beside him. Her expression seemed distant. We ordered delivery, and the three of us ate together. When I brought out beer to celebrate, they happily drank. However, John, who isn't strong with alcohol, soon fell asleep. I ended up drinking one-on-one with Sarah, which led to an awkward atmosphere. Sarah looked around the house again and sighed.
John, you used to live in this old house? I thought it would be something nicer.
Hearing that, I was stunned. This house is an old, small place that I bought when I married my wife. Back then, I didn't have much money, so it was the only option. Although I've made some repairs, it's quite worn in places. But it's a cherished home, filled with memories of my wife and John. Without regard to my reaction, Sarah continued talking.
John said you're attached to this house, but isn't it just because you didn't have the money to move? I mean, you were in work clothes the first time we met, right? I was honestly taken aback. What kind of dad meets his future in-laws in work clothes? It's totally inappropriate. Couldn't even afford a suit, huh?
Is this really her? I couldn't believe that the person sitting in front of me was the same one I had been talking to moments ago.
John works for a major corporation, and he's about to be promoted to department head. But you live in poverty in this old house. It's hard to believe you're related. The $90,000 was probably borrowed, right? Well, I'll take what I can get. Just don't ask for it back.
With a smirk, she delivered these harsh words. I was so stunned I couldn't respond. And ignoring my shock, she shook John awake.
John, it's about time we head back. We're going to miss our train.
John mumbled as he woke up.
Oh, did I fall asleep? What were you two talking about?
Sarah smiled slyly.
Just chatting, right, Thomas?
Dazed, I managed to reply. Well, yeah. John, rubbing his eyes, smiled happily.
That's good. I'm glad you two had a good talk. Tell me later what you talked about.
With that, they stood up and left. Left alone in the house, my intoxication suddenly cleared. What was that all about with Sarah? Was that her true nature? No, it can't be. I tried to shake off these unpleasant thoughts. It was all just the alcohol talking. I reassured myself. Months later, they married without a hitch. It was a beautiful wedding. Many friends came to celebrate, and John looked truly happy. Sarah was radiant in her wedding dress. I was nervously seated at the table. I rarely eat course meals, so I'm not confident about the proper etiquette. Worried that eating awkwardly in public might embarrass John, I didn't eat much. The unfamiliar tuxedo was uncomfortable, and I felt clumsy walking around. But I made a point to greet every guest. Thinking that everyone came for John filled me with deep gratitude. Seeing all the friends from John's university days made me realize sending him to university was the right decision. Watching the happy couple, I felt fulfilled being part of my son's new beginning. I felt truly grateful to have lived to see this day. After the wedding, I returned home alone. I placed a candle before my late wife's portrait and told her about the successful wedding. Finally free from the tuxedo, I was overwhelmed by tiredness, and I fell asleep in the living room. The next morning, the doorbell rang insistently. At 7 a.m. Who could it be this early? I hurriedly got up and, still groggy, opened the door. Hello, who is? Oh, what? There stood Sarah.
I need to talk to you. Let me in.
Yesterday's delicate bride appeared abruptly with a haughty attitude. Why would Sarah come alone the day after the wedding? Confused, I led her into the living room. She began without hesitation.
Straight to the point. Cut ties with my husband and never involve us again.
It was a shocking statement. Sarah's tone became disdainful.
You probably won't understand with your lack of education, but it's annoying to have you around us. John just got promoted, and having a low-educated, poor dad could impact his career, you know?
I don't understand. Does my presence affect his career? Struggling to respond, I was met with her snort of derision.
Figures you wouldn't understand. It's not just John. You're a nuisance to me too. Our family has a respectable lineage. It's embarrassing to think someone might associate us with a poor, uneducated person like you, especially someone who shows up in work clothes to meet their in-laws.
I, who have lived a life dedicated to craftsmanship, couldn't grasp her notion of normal. She continued harshly.
You brag about $90,000 like pocket change. Want to support us? I'm laughing. It's ridiculous to prepare that much money by taking on debt. Just get out of this house right now. It's embarrassing to think my husband's dad lives in such a place. Go somewhere we don't know, so we never have to see you again.
Her words pierced me. Indeed, Sarah's behavior at the dinner wasn't just the alcohol speaking. The Sarah from that time, and the one in front of me now, truly reveal her real character. Sarah wore a spiteful, broad smile.
I don't want to deal with a poor man like you. Hurry up and leave.
I was reaching my breaking point with John's wife. Suddenly, I heard heavy footsteps.
Sarah, what are you doing?
John's voice, filled with anger, made me turn around. Sarah suddenly panicked and softened her demeanor as John appeared.
Oh, it's nothing. I just came to thank Thomas for the wedding.
John glared at her unyieldingly.
I see right through you. The farce is over.
She forced a smile in a desperate attempt to gloss things over.
Oh, don't look so scary. What's wrong?
John walked up to her quietly. His usually gentle eyes were fierce.
I followed you because I was worried when I saw you sneaking out early in the morning, and now I find this. I heard everything you said to my dad.
Sarah stumbled backwards and fell, flustered by John's intensity.
Everything I said was a joke. Don't take it seriously, John.
Shut up.
John yelled louder than ever before.
We're done. I never want to see your face again.
Then, the previously feeble Sarah dramatically changed her tone.
Break up? Don't joke. Who do you think I did this for?
She stood up, pointing at me, and began ranting.
I did it all for John. Do you know what people would say if they knew such a man was your dad? You just got a promotion, right? You want to climb higher, don't you? It's shameful to have someone like that in the family. I did it all for our future.
Sarah's face contorted vilely as she screamed without restraint.
I absolutely refuse to have a blue-collar worker in my family. Living in this shabby house and an uneducated man as a father-in-law, everyone would laugh at us. Plus, you didn't even go to college. What benefit is there to having you around?
As John's expression grew blank, Sarah clutched his arm desperately.
Wake up, John. I know you're kind. You just felt sorry for your poor dad, didn't you? But you don't have to force yourself anymore.
John shook off her hand forcefully and said,
Who are you calling poor? My dad is not a poor man.
Sarah was momentarily flustered, but burst out laughing.
What are you talking about? A person living in this house?
John looked at Sarah with cold eyes and let out a deep sigh.
You judge everything by appearances and education. Dad just doesn't want to let go of this house because he's attached to it. In reality, he earns enough to afford a much bigger house.
Sarah seemed unable to understand.
But it's a construction company, right? It is about physical labor. He even came to meet us in his work clothes.
John quietly shook his head.
There's really no saving you. Dad runs a high-end construction company. His annual sales are quite substantial. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to drop $90,000 just like that, would he? Dad is still an active carpenter, so he wears work clothes. That day, he just happened to come in work clothes, but he does own suits.
No, that's a lie. A lie. A high school grad can't possibly earn that kind of money.
Sarah continued shaking her head frantically. John calmly continued.
You might think only people with an education can earn money, but there are people who succeed through their own skills alone. I am proud of my dad. Education, the house one lives in, the clothes one wears, they don't define everything about a person. You judge Dad solely by his appearance. That's unfortunate.
Sarah finally seemed to realize her mistake, and she collapsed on the spot, turning pale rapidly.
I was wrong. Please forgive me, John. I did it all for you because
She threw herself at John's feet, crying. John looked down at her expressionlessly.
For me, that's not true. You did everything for yourself. You were embarrassed to have a high school graduate in your family. You were afraid your husband wouldn't get ahead and you would be inconvenienced. Everything you did was to make yourself look good. Don't joke that it was for me.
Sarah, still crying, clung to me next.
Thomas, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Please forgive everything.
I didn't know how to respond, but John sharply retorted.
It's no use telling Dad. My feelings won't change. I'll never forgive you for the horrible way you treated my dad who raised me so desperately. I was actually supposed to submit this today.
John pulled out a piece of paper. It was a marriage certificate.
It's over.
John said as he held it in front of Sarah and tore it to shreds. Sarah let out an inarticulate scream and continued crying on the spot. Indeed, I run a specialized construction company for luxury homes. I didn't choose luxury housing because I wanted to earn more money, but because I am meticulous and refuse to compromise on materials and techniques. And by listening to various client requests, our reputation grew, and it just turned out this way. I am still a businessman, but I still go to the site and work as a carpenter. There are things only I can do, and I love my job. Thanks to this, I earn enough to live without financial troubles, but I just can't let go of this old house and continue to live in it. Sarah had misunderstood everything. Later, John and Sarah broke up without ever living together. It was fortunate since they hadn't registered or moved in yet. Sarah tried to reconcile, repeatedly showing up at John's house and bombarding him with calls. He contacted the police and got a restraining order. But then she started coming to my house. Furious, John hired a lawyer and threatened to sue Sarah's parents if she continued to harass me. Panicked, Sarah's parents took her back to their home in the countryside. I don't know what she's up to now. I was worried about John after all that had happened with his would-be wife, but he seemed nonchalant.
I have no regrets or hurt feelings. It feels like I've woken from a dream. Sorry for making you go through this because I couldn't see her true nature.
John said apologetically, bowing his head. I patted John's shoulder. Don't worry about it. It's all in the past. Besides, I am. I hesitated, then stopped myself. I was happy to hear John talk about me to Sarah like that. He had never spoken about it, but it was nice to know that he saw his dad in such a light. Indeed, I don't have a high education or wear crisp suits, but I have lived my life proudly in my profession without being ashamed of my lack of education. It seems John really understood that. At times like this, it's hard for a father to be straightforward. I felt embarrassed and ended up evading the topic. Besides, this whole thing turned out to be a good experience, didn't it? John gave a wry smile.
A good experience, huh?
I laughed and nodded. Absolutely. It taught us a good lesson not to judge people by their appearances. Not every pretty face has a good character. John shrugged with an expression that said he was stumped.
That stings a bit. I'll be careful. By the way, I got promoted to manager.
That's great to hear.
It looks like I'm going to be busier, but I'll do my best, just like Dad.
As he said that, John scratched his head awkwardly.
Well, I'll work hard to earn well.
I think our inability to be straightforward is something we both share, but we understand each other without needing to say it. I want him to live with conviction and pride. And no matter what anyone says, I want to live my life with my head held high too.